So welcome back everyone. Welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy's daily newspaper analysis. Today is 17th January 2026. And today we have a list of topics for our analysis. The first one is about Justice Verma's impeachment, anti-defection law, and we'll also understand that the union government has decided to appoint 1 lakh tribal healers as partners in the health services. We'll also understand European Union leaders to be chief guests at Republic Day function. And then we'll also understand about the Nipah virus in West Bengal. So these are the list of topics that we are going to see. So the first topic is about Justice Yashwant Verma's impeachment. So let's just understand the brief background of it. The background was that Justice Yashwant Verma, that you could see on this image, so he was the judge of Delhi High Court. So what happened was, last year, half-burnt currency notes were found in Justice Yashwant Verma's home or residence. So when this half-burnt currency notes were found in Justice Yashwant Verma's home, so immediately, corruption allegations were leveled against Justice Yashwant Verma. So one thing that we should understand, that the removal process of judges of the Supreme Court and High Court is very difficult. So this is a very complex procedure to remove judges of the Supreme Court and High Court. Now there are two grounds which are actually mentioned in the Constitution to remove judges of the Supreme Court and High Court. One is proved misbehavior of the judge. The second is incapacity. These are two grounds based on which judges of the Supreme Court and High Court are actually removed. Now in this context, when these half-burnt currency notes were found in Justice Yashwant Verma's residence, so there were allegations against Justice Yashwant Verma. And Justice Yashwant Verma was also not able to give a proper reason why so much currency in his residence. So after this, what actually happened was, Lok Sabha members have submitted a motion to the Speaker of Lok Sabha to initiate the removal process of judge of the Delhi High Court, who is Justice Yashwant Verma, on the grounds of proved misbehavior. So we'll understand how a judge of a Supreme Court or a High Court can actually be removed. Now understand that the detailed procedure has not been mentioned in the Constitution, but Constitution has just mentioned that proved misbehavior and incapacity are the grounds for the removal of judges. But the detailed procedure for the removal of judges and high courts mentioned in the Judges Enquiry Act. This Judges Enquiry Act 1968 mentioned the detailed procedure for the removal of judges. Now in fact, we have to understand that there are two important constitutional articles. Article 124 of the Constitution, it talks about the removal of judges of the Supreme Court. Removal of Supreme Court judges. And apart from that, there is another article which is Article 218. So Article 218 deals with the removal of High Court judges. Right. So how judges of the Supreme Court and High Court are actually be removed? Now this procedure is governed under the Judges Enquiry Act. So Judges Enquiry Act governs this procedure, or it has mentioned the detailed procedure for how the judges can actually be removed. Now if we talk about this, so in order to be removed any judge, so a motion has to be signed, and it must be signed by at least 100 members in case of Lok Sabha. 100 members in case of Lok Sabha must sign a motion, and they need to submit the motion to the Speaker of the House firstly. Right. However, if a motion is introduced in Rajya Sabha, if a motion is introduced in the Rajya Sabha, so motion particularly for the removal of judges of the Supreme Court or High Court. So if a motion is introduced in Rajya Sabha, then it must be signed by 50 members of Rajya Sabha. 50 members of Rajya Sabha. Now also understand that this motion can be introduced, signed and introduced in either Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So it is not mandatory that in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the concerned members sign and submit the motion to the speaker or chairman of the Rajya Sabha. So it is not necessary that both houses need to submit this motion to the concerned presiding officer. So either house can actually do it. If the motion is initiated in Rajya Sabha, then 50 members from Rajya Sabha need to sign the motion and they need to submit this motion to the chairman. In case of absence of chairman, they can submit this motion to the deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha. Deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha, they can actually submit this motion. So in case of Lok Sabha, they need to submit this motion to the speaker. Now, so it is up to the speaker or the chairman of Rajya Sabha, speaker of Lok Sabha or chairman of Rajya Sabha to either accept this motion or reject this motion. Now imagine that if they have rejected this motion, for example, 100 members in Lok Sabha have submitted a motion for the removal of a judge of a Supreme Court and a High Court, and they need to submit this motion to the speaker. However, if speaker reject this motion, then this motion will end in the Lok Sabha. Right. So in this case, if the motion is signed by 50 members in Rajya Sabha and if chairman or deputy chairman reject this motion, then this motion will end in the Rajya Sabha. Right. However, understand that if speaker accepts this motion, if speaker actually accepts this motion, then speaker of the Lok Sabha will constitute a 3-member committee. So there will be a 3-member committee that will be constituted. For example, if chairman of Rajya Sabha accepts this motion, he will constitute a 3-member committee. Right. Because it depends on which house this motion is initiated. For example, if this motion is initiated at first in Rajya Sabha, then chairman, after accepting this motion, he will constitute a 3-member committee. However, if it is adopted in Lok Sabha, the speaker will constitute a 3-member committee. Right. So this 3-member committee will include the senior judge or judge of the Supreme Court. Right. Secondly, the Chief Justice of any High Court. Third, a distinguished jurist. Distinguished jurist. So this is a 3-member committee. It will be constituted by the presiding officer of that house where this motion has been moved and adopted. Right. So this is up to the 3-member committee. Now 3-member committee will start investigating the matter against the concerned judge, whether the judge of a Supreme Court or a judge of a High Court. So whether they have actually the allegations against the judges about this proved misbehavior and incapacity, these allegations are true or not. So it will be investigated by this 3-member committee. Now understand, if this 3-member committee found that the concerned judge is guilty of proved misbehavior and incapacity, then, so if this committee found that, then the speaker will adopt this immediately, and the speaker will also initiate voting in the house. Right. So because the committee has proved that this concerned judge is guilty of proved misbehavior and incapacity, because these are only 2 grounds mentioned in the Constitution under Article 124 and under Article 218 for the removal of judges of the Supreme Court and High Court. So once this committee has proved that the concerned judge is guilty, then the speaker will initiate a voting in the house, and this motion must be adopted by the house with the special majority. A special majority is required to be passed in each house. For example, so Lok Sabha speaker constituted this committee. So once this committee has given its report, then this motion will put to voting in the house, and it requires special majority. Now what exactly is this special majority? Now special majority need to fulfill 2 conditions. What are those 2 conditions? So the first condition is that more than 50% of total strength of the house. So more than 50% of total strength of the house must accept this motion, first thing. The second thing is that more than 2/3 of the members present and voting, more than 2/3 of members present and voting, and this more than 2/3 should be more than the 50%. So this is the special majority, which is very difficult, very complex. So this special majority is actually required in the Lok Sabha. So once it is passed in the Lok Sabha, then it will be transmitted to the Rajya Sabha. In Rajya Sabha also, it requires the special majority. So that is more than 50% of the total strength of the house, and more than 2/3 of the members present and voting, that should be more than 50%. So once this motion is passed in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha with the special majority, then the parliament will recommend the president to remove the concerned judge. So ultimately, who will remove the judge? President will remove the judge of the Supreme Court and High Court on the recommendation of the parliament after this inquiry committee has proved that the concerned judge is guilty. However, what if this committee has proved that this judge is not guilty of proved misbehavior and incapacity? So if this committee has proved that he is not guilty, then this procedure will end at that point of time. It will not go ahead. Right. Now, in this context, what actually happened was this Justice Verma. So, in fact, an inquiry committee has been constituted, and this inquiry committee has also proved that Justice Yashwant Verma is guilty of proved misbehavior. And in fact, Lok Sabha, around like 148 members have submitted the motion to the Speaker, and Speaker of the Lok Sabha also adopted this motion, firstly. However, secondly, on the same date, both in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, in Lok Sabha and in Rajya Sabha, at the same day, on the same day, so this motion has been submitted by the members to the Speaker of Lok Sabha, and at the same time, the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So why they have given this to Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha? Because Chairman of Rajya Sabha, who was the Vice President, actually resigned. So Chairman, who is the Vice President, when he was resigned, the members of Rajya Sabha have given this removal motion after more than 50 members have signed this. They have given this removal motion to Deputy Chairman, but in this case, the Deputy Chairman rejected this motion. He did not accept this motion. But in Lok Sabha, Speaker accepted this motion, and Speaker is also ready to constitute a 3-member committee. So here, Justice Yashwant Verma's case is actually that since Rajya Sabha Deputy Chairman has actually rejected this motion, Lok Sabha Speaker cannot constitute a committee against him. So this was his contention. But the Supreme Court has actually held that. So Supreme Court rejected his contention that this committee can be constituted in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So there is no mandatory rule that if Rajya Sabha reject this, Lok Sabha cannot adopt this motion. There is no such rule. If Rajya Sabha reject this, Lok Sabha can adopt it. If Lok Sabha reject it, Rajya Sabha can also adopt this. There is no such restriction. So however, understand that after India's independence, no judge of the Supreme Court and High Court removed through this process, right? So no Supreme Court judge or no High Court judge has been removed through this procedure. So you can imagine how complex and how difficult this impeachment procedure is when no judge of a Supreme Court has actually been removed through this impeachment procedure, which is mentioned in the Judges Enquiry Act of 1968. So however, it is expected that either Justice Yashwant Verma will resign as a judge of a High Court, or the impeachment proceedings will be initiated against him. So he was facing allegations for proved misbehavior. The reason was a lot of half-burned currency notes were found in his residence, right? So I hope you have understood this. Justice Yashwant Verma's impeachment process and his contention, and how the judges of the Supreme Court and High Court are actually being removed through this procedure, right? So let's understand another very important topic, which is anti-defection law. Now understand that recently Telangana Speaker dismisses the pleas filed by BRS political party members seeking disqualification of 2 MLAs. Now this is a very important case of the anti-defection law. Anti-defection law. Now understand that this anti-defection law has been mentioned in the 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution. Now 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution has been added through 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act. The 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1985 added the 10th schedule to the Indian Constitution, and this 10th schedule deals with the anti-defection law. Right. So if we talk about this anti-defection law, what exactly is this anti-defection law? Now, in fact, a member of a political party, after winning elections from a particular political party, on the symbol of that particular political party, after winning elections, if he changes the political party and joins another political party, the member who actually shifted the political party can be disqualified as a member of Lok Sabha, a member of parliament, or a member of state legislature through this anti-defection law. Right. Now, why there is a need to disqualify the members? Because when members of the parliament or members of state legislature, when they shift the political parties, so it may lead to the defeat or fall of governments. Because in state legislative assembly or in Lok Sabha, the governments actually sustain based on the majority. Now, if they don't have the majority in the Lok Sabha or state legislative assembly, it may lead to the defeat of the governments, because the opposition political parties may introduce the no confidence motion, and in this no confidence motion, the ruling party must prove its majority, that we have the numbers, we have the majority, so therefore we have the right to form the government. If they don't have the majority of members, then it may lead to the defeat of the political party which is in ruling. So in order to prevent the shifting of members from one political party to another political party, this anti-defection law has been brought in. So therefore, it could be a kind of a deterrence, because if a member shifts to another political party, he will be disqualified. With that fear, members not ready to shift the political parties, not ready to change their political parties so easily. So that is the objective of this anti-defection law. Right. Now, in fact, the grounds of disqualification of the members of Lok Sabha and State Legislative Assembly are mentioned in Article 102 Clause 2, Article 191 Clause 2 for both MPs and MLAs as well. Now, if we talk about the anti-defection law, who will be disqualified under the anti-defection law, or what actions will be considered against the violation of this anti-defection? For example, elected members who gives up the membership of the political party, who joins another political party, the members who violated the whip of the political party. For example, the political party has asked all the members belong to that political party that you need to vote in favor of this particular bill, but the members refuse to vote in favor of that bill, then they may be disqualified under anti-defection law. Now, independent member who joins any political party after his election, he will also be disqualified, and nominated member who joins any political party after 6 months, he will also be disqualified under the anti-defection law. Right. Now, there are certain exceptions under the anti-defection law as well. So what exceptions are given? Speaker or chairman, because in India, in a parliamentary form of government, it is expected that a speaker is also an MP or an MLA. So he also belongs to a political party. He also member of a political party. So in order to ensure the independence of the office of the speaker, it is expected that when any MLA or MP assuming the office of speaker, it is expected that they must resign from the membership of the political party so that they can be independent. However, if a member of MP, MLA, so who is not a speaker, who is not a deputy speaker, but he resigns the political party and joins another political party, then he will be disqualified under anti-defection law. And imagine a political party where 2/3 of the members of that political party decided to join another political party, then it is a mass merger. So this merger will also be not included under this anti-defection law. So these are some exceptions, right? So who will have the final say, a final decision making authority with respect to this anti-defection petitions? It is the speaker. So speaker will take the final decision with respect to the anti-defection. So speaker or presiding, for example, with respect to Rajya Sabha, chairman is having the powers of disqualifying under anti-defection law. With respect to Lok Sabha, speaker will be having the powers. With respect to state legislative assembly, speaker. For example, what if a state has state legislative council, then the chairman will be having the powers, right? Now in this case, what exactly is happening is, in Telangana there are two major political parties. One is Congress and the other political party is BRS, right? So Bharatiya Rashtra Samiti, BRS. Now BRS is an opposition political party and Congress is a ruling political party. Now what has been happening is that 10 MLAs from this BRS party joined Congress after Congress winning the elections. So therefore now some members within the BRS have filed this anti-defection petition to the speaker against this 10 MLAs who shifted the political party from BRS to Congress. But here one thing that we should understand is that speaker belongs to the ruling party. That is the problem here. So when speaker belongs to the ruling party, in this case it is Congress, speaker is not taking decision against the political, because these 10 MLAs have joined Congress party and speaker is from Congress party. So that's why speaker is not taking any decision about these MLAs. That is the problem here, because the ultimate deciding authority of this anti-defection petitions is the speaker. So speaker has been indefinitely delaying this anti-defection petitions. However, so in one of its judgment, the Supreme Court has held that speaker must decide this anti-defection petitions within 3 months. Speaker should not indefinitely delay these anti-defection petitions. He must decide these petitions within 3 months, and this is what the Supreme Court has held that in one of its judgment, right? So therefore these cases should not be delayed. And Supreme Court has also emphasized that ensuring purity of anti-defection law under the 10th schedule is vital for the functioning of democracy, because it may prevent the members joining another political party for the political benefits solely, right? So this is what the Supreme Court has held. However, in this Telangana case, so when in this case speaker has actually rejected this disqualification petitions which are moved by the BRS MLAs. So against this, the BRS party has also approached the Supreme Court as well, and Supreme Court then issued a contempt of court action against the speaker for not taking a decision or rejecting this anti-defection petitions. Right. So I hope you have understood about this anti-defection law. So let's understand about the 1 lakh tribal healers as partners in health services. So recently the union government has decided to formally recognize 1 lakh tribal healers as partners in the health services. Right. Now, in fact, the government has also announced that the tribal health is a priority for Swasth India. So it will be a priority for the government for the Swasth India. Now understand that the tribal areas, a lack of the healthcare facilities is the main problem. Lack of healthcare facilities. Now since in these tribal areas, because of the lack of healthcare facilities, the traditional healthcare healers or traditional tribal healers, they actually play a very important role in providing health services or traditional health services to the tribal communities. And traditional tribal healers also have the traditional knowledge or traditional medicinal knowledge about different diseases as well. So therefore, the government has decided to make these traditional tribal healers part of or partners of the health services, so that the government can utilize the traditional tribal healers to provide better health care to the tribal population, or those people who are living in the remote areas of our country. So with that particular objective, the government has actually launched this program. Now, in fact, under this, the traditional tribal healers will be given training, and they will also be given training, and the capacity building program will also be organized by the government in partnership with the various institutions. For example, Indian Council of Medical Research, All India Institution for Medical Science. So these institutions will be roped in to provide training and organize capacity building programs for the traditional tribal healers. For example, we have A&M workers and Anganwadi workers. They actually play a very important role in providing healthcare services at the grassroots level. In a similar way, the traditional tribal healers and their facilities and their knowledge will also be utilized for providing better healthcare for the tribal people, or those people who are living in the remote and rural areas. And in fact, the training will also be provided by the World Health Organization as well. Now, in this context, so this decision has been taken by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. So Ministry of Tribal Affairs has actually taken this decision. However, recently the Indian Council of Medical Research Regional Medical Center in Bhubaneswar, Odisha, Regional Medical Center in Bhubaneswar, Odisha has established country's first tribal health observatory. Right, so this tribal health observatory was established for the first time in Bhubaneswar by Indian Council of Medical Research Regional Center, and in fact it is also known as the Bharat Tribal Health Observatory. So understand that in tribal areas, the people have been facing several problems, right? So they have been facing a lot of issues in the tribal areas. For example, leprosy is a problem, malaria, leprosy. So these are several problems, and anemia. So there are several problems that the tribal population have been facing. So therefore, the objective of the government to deal with all these problems in these tribal areas and providing them the better healthcare facilities. And in fact, there are several flagship schemes, programs that the government has launched to provide healthcare services. Now, with the objective of this traditional tribal healers and making them partners in the health services, what the government will do, the government will start extending or expanding all these flagship healthcare programs at the grassroots level to the tribal populations. For example, Ayushman Bharat, which actually provides 5 lakh rupees of health insurance for every household. Mission Indradhanush, it is an immunization program against 7 deadly diseases, particularly targeting children, right? So this is immunization program. And apart from that, National Medical Commission has been established, Janani Suraksha Karyagram, so which takes care of the lactating mothers, which reduces the maternal mortality rate. And in fact, in these tribal areas, the infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate are also very high. So therefore, the focus is on significantly reducing both IMR and MMR, and also increasing the nutritional outcomes in the tribal belts of India. So it will help fight malnutrition, anemia, and increasing healthcare awareness or engagement of these traditional tribal healers will help fight the diseases like malaria, leprosy in these tribal belts. And apart from that, all these programs will be taken to the remotest areas through this traditional tribal healers. Right, so this is the objective, and that's why the government has planned to recognize the 1 lakh traditional tribal healers as partners in the healthcare services. And in fact, this is a very good move because it will help achieve universal healthcare. So the next very important topic is about budget 26-27 and what are the key areas that this budget must focus on. Right. Now understand that in the year 2025, so Indian economy has faced the global headwinds, right? Particularly from US, 50% tariffs on Indian goods. 50% tariffs on Indian goods were imposed. Now understand that US was India's largest export destination. We are exporting a lot of goods to US. And in fact, several industries are the labor-intensive industries. Food processing, textile, leather. So these are labor-intensive industries. That means they create a huge employment opportunities for India's unemployed population. But when US imposed this 50% tariffs, so within 50%, 25% is reciprocal tariff and 25% is a penalty on India for importing Russian oil. So 25% is a reciprocal tariff. Right. Now in this context, so this US tariffs badly hit the Indian economy. So despite the 50% tariffs, global negative headwinds on Indian economy was able to withstand this negative aspects of or global headwinds, and it shows some resilience. Now in fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also rightly recognized or held that the year 2025 will be remembered as a year of reforms, right? So in fact, 2025 will be remembered as year of continuous reforms that India strived to achieve in the field of economy, so that to make our economy more and more resilient despite the global negative headwinds, despite 50% of the tariffs imposed by countries like India on Indian economy. Now very soon in February, the government is going to introduce the budget 2026 and 27. Now in this context, what are the important and what are the essential areas that the government should actually keep in mind before actually going through this budget, so that the reforms or any measures which could be introduced in budget will make Indian economy more and more resilient and sustainable. Now in this context, so there are certain areas, for example, particularly with respect to defense production. Now, in defense production, there is a need to substantially increase the capital expenditure in defense production. So this capital expenditure must reach 30% of the total capital expenditure allocations. Right, so earlier it was like around 26%, but this capital expenditure in defense production must be 30%. And apart from that, the share or allocations for DRDO must be increased at a substantial scale. So why? Because this is very important for indigenization or self-reliance in the defense equipment, or indigenization of defense equipment. Now in fact, one thing that we should understand, that India has been importing a lot of things from other countries, particularly the defense production or defense equipment. So we must reduce India's dependence on countries like France, US, Russia. So we should focus on domestic production that will help achieve self-reliance and indigenization. For that, the capital expenditure on defense production must be increased, and at the same time the share of DRDO in total allocations must be increased. And apart from that, the private sector participation in the defense manufacturing, defense equipment production must be increased. So that means the private sector should also be increased, because in India we have an ambitious goal that very soon, in the next 5 years, we must reach 50,000 crore of exports in total defense products. So therefore, we have several ambitious targets in terms of defense export, self-reliance, indigenization of defense products. So for that to happen, we need to promote private sector, we need to promote the capital expenditure, we need to also increase the allocations for the defense research and development organization. So this is a very important area that India should focus upon. Now apart from that, the other area is the renewable energy resources, electric vehicles, renewable energy resources, electric vehicles. So they actually require semiconductors. So all these things are actually require critical mineral resources. India should no longer dependent on other countries for these critical mineral resources. India should become self-reliant. So otherwise, if India dependent on other countries, India's dependence may be exploited for geopolitical reasons by countries like US and China. So therefore, there is a need for a self-reliance, and that is a very, very important aspect that India should actually focus on. Right? So in 2025, India has launched a National Critical Minerals Mission. The objective is exploration, processing of critical minerals so that the critical mineral sustainability or critical mineral self-reliance can be achieved, and the electric vehicle industry, renewable energy industry and semiconductor industry can further thrive in India. So therefore, the focus should be on critical minerals. The focus should be on the capital expenditure in 26-27 budget. And apart from that, India should actually focus on promotion of exports, right? So India's exports should be more and more competitive as well. So focus should be on exports, and with respect to exports, we need to diversify our destinations or export destinations. For example, USA has imposed tariffs on Indian goods. So why don't we explore the alternatives in terms of China, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, Latin America and Africa, so that our exports would be more competitive and we will further diversify and we will not depend on any single country for our export dependence, or we will not depend on a few countries alone. Now in this context, you have to understand the other thing as well. So India is eagerly waiting to sign these free trade agreements, and recent ones we all knew. With UAE we have signed, with Oman we have signed a free trade agreement, with Australia we have signed a free trade agreement, and European Free Trade Association, with that also we have signed a free trade agreement. And in fact, European Union, another very important partner for India, with European Union also we are interested to sign a free trade agreement. So therefore it will further help diversify our exports. So similarly, the areas of drone manufacturing, drone production. So this is also another area where the government should actually focus on to explore the export market, right? So this is also another area which is having a huge potential, huge scope, which could actually create employment opportunities, and which is also having a large export potential as well. And apart from that, the government providing incentives, for example, the tax concessions for the export of things, so this should also be increased. The tax concessions allocation should also be substantially increased. So all these reforms must be adopted by the government in 26-27 budget. So therefore that will actually help Indian economy to grow at a faster pace, to become more resilient and more sustainable in the future. Understand that we have several ambitious goals, that we wanted to become a third largest economy very soon, overtaking Germany. We wanted to become a $5 trillion economy. We wanted to become a Vikasit Bharat by 2047. So these reforms are very important and necessary for India to become the developed country in the future. So I hope you have understood this. And the next topic is European Union leaders to be the chief guests at the Republic Day function. Right? So in fact, this is going to be the 27th Republic Day celebration, and in this 27th Republic Day celebration, a European Union Council president, who is Antonio Costa. So Antonio Costa, who is a European Council president, and then European Commission president Ursula von der Leyen. So they are going to be the chief guests of this 77th Republic Day parade. So this is a healthy tradition in India that every year we invite the dignitaries from other countries as a guest, as a chief guest of the Republic Day function. So this is going to be the 77th Republic Day function, and then in this function we are going to invite the European Council President and European Commission President. However, so it has the significance. So the significance is because India is eagerly looking to sign a free trade agreement with the European Union, and in this backdrop, India invited the leaders of European Union to this 77th Republic Day ceremony. So if you look at the background of India and European Union free trade agreement or the relations, it is expected that India and European Union should conclude the negotiations on the free trade agreement by December 2025, but still the free trade agreement has not yet concluded between India and Europe. So if such a free trade agreement is concluded between India and European Union, it will benefit both EU and India as well. For example, if you look at the timeline, in 2006, India and European Union have recognized the need for a free trade agreement. Right? So this need was recognized at a summit called Helsinki Summit between India and European Union. So that was held in 2006 October. However, in June 2007 to 2013, 15 rounds of negotiations were held between India and European Union. So these negotiations will actually takes place between European Union and India, so that they could actually arrive at the best free trade agreement that could help, that could support, that could benefit both the countries, or both European Union and India. So from 2013 to 21, talks stalled due to multiple unresolved issues and mutual disagreements between these two, India and European Union. And in June 2022, European Commissioner for Economy and Productivity Valdis and Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal relaunched India-European Union trade negotiations, and in July 2022, first round of negotiations were completed between these two countries. Right? So after that, in 2022, there was second round of free trade negotiations that were held in Brussels. In November to December 2022, third round were held in New Delhi. And February 2023, Trade and Technology Council set up to oversee the cooperation in the areas, for example, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotechnology, security and defense, all these areas. Now, fourth round of trade negotiations were concluded in Brussels, and fifth round in New Delhi in June 2023. And sixth round were held in October 2023, seventh round, eighth round, and then ninth round of, so different rounds of trade negotiation, because it is not easy to arrive at a free trade agreement between such a large economies of the world. So European Commission President visits India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Leyen decided to fast track this India-European Union Free Trade Agreement, and 10th round of this negotiations took place in Brussels, and 11th round were held in Delhi, 12th round in Brussels, and 13th round in Delhi took place. However, as of now, the free trade agreement between India and European Union not yet concluded, but in future very soon we may expect that this free trade agreement might be concluded between India and European Union. So that's all for today, and thank you so much. So please subscribe our YouTube channel and also like the video. Thank you.